Hey everyone, just a quick note for my listeners before we really get started. There were one or two small audio quality issues in this episode, but I really hope it doesn't detract from your enjoyment of it because our guest, Sallyanne Monti, was awesome. And she had so much great stuff to say. So we really hope you enjoy this episode, and thanks for listening to For Love and Money. Hello, everyone, and welcome to For Love and Money, the podcast about selling the most sapphic fiction you can with the Lesbian Talk Show. I'm Rae D, Magdon, and today I have a very special guest who's agreed to join me, Sallyanne Monti. We met at GCLS this year, and I really enjoyed one of her talks on marketing, so I thought it would be great to have her on the show to share some of her wisdom. Sallyanne, thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you, Rae. It was great meeting you, and I'm excited about this chat.
Well, so am I. So you come from a little bit of a different background than some of my other guests. You actually edit a lot of anthologies.
Yeah, I have a finance background. I started out in my early career on Wall Street, and then I left and had a bunch of babies. And then I went to work for electrical contractor in Staten Island, New York. So I've always been writing. I've been a writer my whole life. I morphed into grant writing in the last 2 decades of my career, and that's kind of how I wound up where I am today.
So you have a very diverse background in terms of the things you have written. But how does producing and promoting an anthology differ from producing and promoting a novel?
Well, in an anthology, of course, the body of work is representative of many, many authors. I could talk a little bit about the anthology we did in 2017 for Sapphire Books, and it started out as a long-distance romance-themed anthology. And when we put the call out, it was so well received that the book morphed into 3 volumes that we wound up releasing over a 9-month period of time. So we got so many responses to that, we had to create 3 books. And we're looking at somewhere in a neighborhood of, 70 authors throughout the course of the 3 books. So when you market a book that has so many voices in it, you have to approach it in a way where your marketing is representative of the large majority of the group of authors. So it's not the voice of one author where you're focusing on one story. You have to create a draw to a book that has a variety of stories in it.
So where do you start? Do you use social media? Do you use the authors themselves to try and get some marketing done? How do you begin?
Yeah, we do all of that. Social media and digital marketing is the push that we're all seeing now. There's not a whole lot that we do in print. So the way we market anthologies is we do go to our authors and ask them to market their story in the book. And that's helpful because versus a single author, you have one opportunity for promotion, but with multiple authors, you have the opportunity to have all of those authors go out and promote it. And the large majority are doing it by social media, primarily Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. The way we market it as a publisher, in addition to reaching out to those authors, is to reach out to libraries, to reach out to various organizations. If there's a theme in the book, we'll go out to organizations that might represent a specific theme. If it was a nonfiction body of work, we could look for nonfiction associations. And if it's a fiction body of work, we can look for that. Also, the groups on Facebook are very powerful, too. They seem to reach people. People seem to respond quickly to social media and less quickly to other means of marketing.
Okay, that's actually really widely applicable advice to find, something that relates to the theme of your book and try to make contact with vendors or organizations that are related to a similar theme. I'm going to have to think on that. Let's talk about you. In your career, you produce very diverse works. I was looking at your webpage and I was like, oh my gosh, she's done a little bit of everything. So that being said, how do you bring all your projects together under one brand to promote yourself?
I think my own brand has grown just as part of who I am organically as a person. My entire life and my entire career was built around helping other people and sharing resources. In the final couple of days of my business career, I retired in October of 2016 from my grant writing. I gravitated towards that business because I was able to go out to companies, over 800 companies in the years that I was in business, and help them get funding to train their employees. And that was very rewarding because you can see the immediate results of your work. I had a lot of expertise in delivering training just through my own skill set. And so I would offer that training for free to those companies that I represented and got money for if they wanted to partake in that. And I gained the brand of being the person, the go-to person for anything you needed. And in the past 2 decades, I've spent a lot of time with LGBT organizations on their boards, helping out boards. My wife and I and our kids, going back on 20 years ago, we were one of the poster families for marriage equality because we wanted to give back to the community, and we felt the way we could do it is by letting the media into our house and home, and they saw that our house and home was the same as everybody else's. Didn't matter the gender of the parents, it was still parents, bills, mortgages, school, kids, all of that. So I think my brand grew from that. I still believe firmly in that. The session that I did on GCLS was driven around how to brand yourself, how to do more with less, how to leverage your relationships, and how to share information. So my bodies of work gravitate towards nonfiction. I do write fiction as well. So I would say if I was going to be branded, I would be branded as as a nonfiction short story writer. Although I'm releasing my memoir now, which is a full body of work. That would be my brand. Probably I would like to be known as the person who always wants to help other people and can deliver on that promise. It's not just words.
So, I actually know about your memoir coming out in December, "The Light at the End of the Tunnel." How do you plan on marketing that release as a nonfiction memoir? You don't see many of those in the lesfic community, and I think how are you gonna let people know that it's there so they can check it out?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the marketing is going to be done over social media. I just solidified our book launch party. It's going to be held at the LGBT Center in Palm Springs. So they're going to help me market the book out to their audience across Coachella Valley, which is Palm Springs, Palm Desert, Indio, La Quinta, all of those desert cities. So that's going to be really great. And a large majority of my marketing will either be direct marketing, where I create an event I'd like to participate in, or an event around the book, and then I would market that event through social media. That's the main source. Um, I do think there's value in promoting your bodies of work in programs for other literary conferences because people read the programs. And those are printed, usually printed pieces of collateral. And I've found that I've gotten quite a few leads from advertisements in those publications as well.
What kind of organizations have you used the programs of to raise awareness about your work?
GCLS would be one. That's Golden Crown Literary Society. Sapphire does an annual conference. LCLC, it's Left Coast Lesbian Literary Conference. There's Saints and Sinners and some of the other big ones. I've recently connected with the Nonfiction Authors Association. That's a brand new one. And that association, you can sign up for free if you'd like to, and then you can pay an annual fee to get more resources and services. But even at the free level, they provide some help with advertising, different types of templates and things of that nature. And they also provide discounts. Like if you're going to self-publish, you can get a discount from various resources like Amazon and Ingram Spark and the agencies that issue like barcodes and ISBNs. So there's quite a bit out there with just a little bit of research if you nudge around.
That kind of segues into my next question, which is that you have strong ties to a lot of different organizations and vendors. And how does this networking help you promote your work? Like, what are some of the things that they've given you, the tools they've given you to help you share your releases?
In the true essence of who I am, in my heart, I'm the person that offers other people help, and the folks that are on the receiving end of these offers are waiting for the shoe to drop. In other words, they're waiting to find out, what's the catch? Is this going to cost me something? Are you trying to sell me something? Why are you offering this? And if I do take your offer of this, what are you going to expect in the future? And the answer to that question is and always will be nothing. I expect nothing. What I do expect is that as we evolve as people in our business life, in our personal life, we accumulate knowledge and resources for that you have to pay for, and free resources. And it's almost like you grow into an adult and your parents are there, and if you're lucky enough to have them still be on the planet, they have so much information, and yet we don't ask them, did you ever experience this, and how might you handle that? Because we think we know things better than everybody else. I mean, that's how we evolve as people. We're kind of self-orbited. But in reality, that's not true, because we all carry resources, relationships, and information that's incredibly valuable to someone, anyone, other people that you engage. So when I meet someone and we start to chat, I always come from the perspective of, what information or partners do I know and relationships do I have that I might be able to share with Rae? Maybe you're looking for a printer, or maybe you're looking for a marketing person, or maybe you're just looking to bounce an idea off of somebody. And I might know the ideal somebody for that particular thing. And so if I share that with you, it could be incredibly valuable for you. And it's just goodwill for me. So that is really the essence of who I am and how I am in the world. And I think my biggest obstacle to that is having people believe that I'm not looking for something in return.
It feels like you're saying that collaboration and goodwill are, in the end, even without expecting anything for yourself, actually very successful and profitable for everybody involved. Which is kind of a theme that we've touched on in this podcast in the previous episodes, is that like just forming relationships, positive relationships, and collaborating with others is really one of the best ways to market your book, even if you're not asking for anything.
Absolutely. And what comes back to you is goodwill. People will they'll remember that you did that. They will want to collaborate with you in the future, and they might just share some of their own resources. The session that we did at GCLS, called Brand You, I did it with Lucy J. Madison. She's a great lesfic author. And we created this because we wanted to demonstrate to folks how they can stretch their marketing dollars. Spend your money on Vistaprint or whatever it is that you need to spend your dollars on, but collaborate with each other, because it could be as simple as sharing on social media. It's so powerful how much outreach you can get just by doing that. And what you may find is people are afraid to ask, and people should just try and ask. There's nothing wrong with asking. If you put a simple post on social media and say, I'm marketing my book, and everybody likes it, that's great. But if they don't share it, it hasn't really moved much. And so sometimes just adding the words, please share if you can, it has an enormous effect. It winds up being shared among thousands of people, where without asking for that, you might not have had that result. But in the session that you attended at GCLS, this is really the essence of our community, and I believe this wholeheartedly. We're colleagues, we're not competitors. When we think of each other as competitors, we close the doors on everything. If we can, in our hearts, truly believe that we are colleagues everybody wins by sharing. uh, so much goodwill can happen, so much marketing can happen. You can outreach to thousands of people and it won't cost you a penny. You can open doors on resources that you didn't know about. There might be associations or graphic designers or other people that do stuff pro bono and they just do it because. So I think if our community could embrace one thing, it would be that we're colleagues, not competitors. Because if we truly believe that, our actions would change to be more inclusive and more widespread, and everyone would win.
I remember writing that in big letters in my notebook when I was sitting at that session because I agreed with it so much. And I've been telling everybody, like on my blog, everybody I know, that readers read so much faster than writers write.
Right.
And they're not going to sit around twiddling their thumbs waiting for your next book. They're going to want to know what else to read. And if you can share other authors that you like, then those authors will share you when it's your turn to make a release. So it really is a collaborative thing, our community.
It is. And, there's many publishers in our industry. And I think that's a great thing. If I see a new publishing house open up, I think it's great. I don't think there's anything negative about it. I think each publishing company has their own way of doing things. They have their own brand, they have their own kind of dynamic. And one publishing house isn't the publishing house for everyone. So by having a mix, it just solidifies and strengthens lesbian themed literature, and we all win.
So, speaking of publishers, you have a strong association with Sapphire Books, obviously. And I know that they host the Left Coast Lesbian Literary Conference because I went last year and really enjoyed myself. But could you please tell me what types of events Sapphire participates in to market and to help their authors promote their work?
Sure. Well, in addition to our annual conference, the authors in the Sapphire family do have regional events that they attend, and we have special Sapphire family Facebook group and other ways for us to communicate as a publishing group, sharing those resources and sharing those opportunities with fellow authors, both in and outside of Sapphire. If one of us gets an event, we'll invite authors in our local area, both Sapphire authors and outside Sapphire authors, to participate in those events. It just makes a stronger event. More people show up, more authors to choose from. So that's one way of doing it. We built a very strong relationship with Olivia Vacations for Lesbians. And back in 2017, we produced Literary Adventures at Sea. There was 2,100 women on a cruise ship. And on sea days, it was a pop-up literary conference. And at night, there were literary events hosted by Sapphire Books. On that particular cruise, we had Karen Callmaker, Dorothy Allison, we had Lee Lynch, and we had Jennifer Fulton. Olivia was so pleased with it through their surveys post-trip that we're doing a second one. It's April 27th to May 5th. It's a Caribbean cruise that leaves from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and goes to several Caribbean islands. It also goes to Bermuda, and it ends in New Jersey. And we have Jewel Gomez on that. We have J.M. Redman on that cruise. And we also are bringing back Dorothy Allison, who's just amazing. You can listen to her all day long and never tire of what she has to say and how she has to say it. That's a ship, again, that holds about 2,000 people. And by example, those events are being marketed by Olivia Travel, and their outreach is somewhere in a six-figure range on how many lesbians they reach in their digital and print marketing throughout the course of a year.
That's incredible. I want to go on a lesbian themed cruise that's all about like lesbian literature. That sounds like the dream.
Yeah, it's going to be a great cruise if you can go on it. It would be really cool. If anybody wants to learn more about it, what the costs are, where it goes, and how it all works, they can email me at Sallyanne@SallyanneMonti.com, and I'll just give them whatever information they need and help them any way I can. There's deep discounts involved in those cruises because Olivia wants to expand their market to the lesbian literature industry. So there's anywhere from $100 to $600 a person off.
Well, I will definitely add any informational links, both to this stuff and also to your website and any of your works that you'd like to direct listeners to. But this has been such an enlightening conversation. I feel like my head is spinning a little bit. This was great. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast. I'm going to put you on the spot a little, but do you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners before we wrap things up?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to you, Rae. Thank you for doing this podcast. I think it's a really great resource for all of us, and I'm really honored to be asked to chat with you on this. I would say to folks, leave your wallet as your last resort. Look for ways to spread the word without cash out of your pocket. And it's very powerful. There are lots of ways to do that. We didn't talk about this way, but there is a way, another way for authors to extend their advertising dollars, and that's by offering trade to organizations. So if, by example, I'm going to release my memoir, Light at the End of the Tunnel, it's going to release on December 15th, and it's a true story. It's a story of how my wife and I met. We were 3,000 miles apart. This is over 20 years ago. We were married to our husbands. There were a bunch of kids. We wound up together. It's a story of coming out. And I thought about, how am I going to market this book? Because it reads like a lesfic. In fact, Curve Magazine did a review on it, and the writer said, I usually read lesfics, and this is a true story, and it gives lesfic a run for their money because it is a love story, and it does read that way, but it's all true. And a big way to do outreach was through the local libraries. If you do an event or a reading at a local library, they will advertise your event to thousands of people in your community, your neighbors. And that's a great way to spread your marketing dollars. If you'd like to go a little further, you can approach companies, LGBT companies or LGBT friendly companies, and ask them to sponsor your book, or sponsor your book tour, or sponsor your book launch party. In return, you name them as a sponsor, and they might give you samples, of whatever their product might be that you can hand out, and they'd also cross promote it through their means. So there's a lot of different ways to market without money coming out of your pocket. And I would say, if you take to heart, we're colleagues, not competitors, leave your pocket as your last resort. There's so much you can do. And I would welcome anyone at any time to contact me. It's my pleasure to help anybody any way I can. And the best way to do that would be to my email, Sallyanne@SallyanneMonti.com.
Wow, I'm really glad that you took the time to go into that last little bit about your book and about how trade works and all that great stuff. So I'm glad that we talked about that before the show ends. I think it's valuable. So thank you so much again for joining me on the show. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you. I hope to see you on the Sapphire Cruise.
I would love that.
Okay.
For those of you who are listening, this is For Love and Money with the Lesbian Talk Show. I'm Rae D. Magdon, and today my guest was Sallyanne Monti. We discussed marketing, nonfiction books, trade, collaboration, and all sorts of other great topics. If you'd like to join the conversation, please check out the Lesbian Talk Show's Facebook group. You can also look at our Patreon if you want to support us. You get outtakes and some podcasts that don't air for other listeners. Thank you, and have a wonderful 2 weeks.